What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. Hope you had a fabulous Thanksgiving and hope you're enjoying the Cyber Monday, Black Friday weekend holiday specials. Let me know if you're finding any fabulous deals here this weekend. And let's jump right in. We got a lot to talk about here. And thanks so much for liking and sharing these videos. It helps to get our reach here out on YouTube and for YouTube to help grow our small YouTube channel here. So thanks so much. And let's jump right in. So China is actually expanding their lockdowns. Yeah, as new virus cases hit their daily record of what they actually report there. Remember, that's the key for what they actually report. Um, yeah, so they have massive lockdowns going on in China all over the place, tens of millions of people. Yikes. And don't forget that this causes the supply chain shortage, and especially with the holidays coming up here. A lot of things that get manufactured over there and get shipped over here, um, also affecting us here as well. Yeah, pandemic lockdowns are expanding across China, including in a city where factory workers clashed this week with police as the number of virus cases hit a daily record. Residents of 8 districts of Zhengzhou, home to 6.6 million people, were told to stay home for 5 days beginning Thursday, except to buy food or get medical treatment. Daily mass testing was ordered in what the city government called a war of annihilation against the virus. Yeah, a lot of people want this virus to go away, but yeah, this is what's going on in China. During clashes Tuesday and Wednesday, the police beat workers protesting over a pay dispute at the biggest factory for Apple's iPhone, located in an industrial zone near the city. Foxconn, the Taiwan based owner of the factory, apologized Thursday for what it called an input error in the computer system and said it would guarantee the pay is the same as agreed to in the official recruitment posters. Apple recently announced that they have new production facilities outside of China. But as you can see the headline here, Apple's manufacturing moves outside of China are just a drop in the ocean. Matching the scale of Chinese operations is a gargantuan task even for the world's most valuable company, which is Apple. Apple is slowly moving manufacturing away from China. Production centers are popping up in Mexico, India, Vietnam, as well as the United States, according to a new report from the Wall Street Journal, which cites the recent list of suppliers released by Apple. But no country can match the scale of operations Apple has built in China, and that presents a risk for Apple. Operations in China have suffered because of geopolitical tensions and pandemic induced lockdowns. Apple currently has about 180 plus total suppliers. 150 of them still are operating in China. 90% of them, such as iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, are made in China. And honestly, this is not just an Apple thing. I mean, you could say, hey, I'm not going to buy from Apple, but this is mostly all companies. I mean, most major companies, this is just how it is. 8 years it'll take for Apple to move even 10% of their production out of China. It will take 8 years to move even 10% of their production out of China. Wow. They have 48 Apple supply manufacturing sites in the US as of September 2021, up from 25 a year earlier. Apple's supplier manufacturers sites in California in 2021, 3 times as many compared in the previous year, But there's a catch. Operations in California aren't nearly as large as ones in China. They tend to be smaller scale production lines, test lines for new products or services, the Wall Street Journal reports. Another industry is booming, the weapons industry. You can see here this headline from Reuters: weapon industry booms as Eastern Europe arms Ukraine, helping with their defenses as well. A lot of Americans think that it's only the United States helping fund Ukraine, which the vast majority of the money goes to literally defense, helping Ukraine defend their country from being killed, from defending against missiles, and bombs, and attacks, from literally being attacked by Russian President Vladimir Putin and his army. That is not the case. They're literally being helped defended by dozens of other countries. You can see here Eastern Europe's arms industry is churning out guns, artillery shells, and other military supplies at a pace not seen since the Cold War, as governments in the region's lead effort to aid Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Allies have been supplying Kyiv with weapons and military equipment since Russia's invaded its neighbor on February 24th, depleting their own inventories along the way. The United States and Britain committed the most direct military aid to Ukraine between January 24th and October 3rd, with Poland in third place and the Czech Republic in ninth. So you can see there's a lot of different countries in there. Still wary of Russia, their Soviet era master, some former Warsaw Pact countries see helping Ukraine as a matter of national security. But nearly a dozen government and company officials and analysts who spoke to Reuters said the conflict also presented new opportunities for the region's arms industry. Other manufacturers too are increasing production capacity and racing to hire workers, companies, and government officials from Poland, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. There have been tens of thousands of jobs created or held because of the US manufacturing of weapons as well. Also, kind of an alarming story that I came across. Take a look at this. This is back at the end of September, so going into October. The US and Europe are running out of weapons to send to Ukraine. In the US weapons industry, the normal production level for artillery rounds for howitzers, a long range heavy artillery weapon currently used on the battlefield of Ukraine, is around 30,000 rounds per year in peacetime. The Ukrainian soldiers uh, fighting invading Russian forces go through that amount in roughly 2 weeks. I mean, which makes sense compared to peacetime. Um, they're worried, saying, quote, "I'm greatly concerned unless we have new production, which takes months to ramp up, we're not going to have the ability to supply the Ukrainians. Europe is running low. The military stocks of most European NATO member states have been, I wouldn't say exhausted, but depleted in high proportion because we've been providing a lot of capacity to the Ukrainians." The EU's High Representatives for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy said earlier this month. And they're currently holding special meetings for arms directors to discuss ways to refill members' nations' weapons stockpiles. One root issue is that Western nations have been producing arms at much smaller volumes during peacetime, with governments opting to slim down very expensive manufacturing and only producing weapons as needed. Some of the weapons that are running low are no longer being produced, and highly skilled labor and experience are required for their production. Things have been in short supply across the US manufacturing sector for years. So they're going to need to ramp this up, and this will create even more jobs for Americans. But as my father would say, they're going to need to get on their horse, do this even more so now and into the future to get that capacity back up. And the other thing is, who knows how long this is going to go on. So this is something that's probably going to go on, at least the production side of all of this artillery and supply for quite a while. And even so, the selling of some of this stuff to NATO countries, our allies, European countries and stuff like that, a lot of our allies, which the U.S. can make a profit on. There's probably a lot of jobs that can be produced there. Yeah, so probably really, I don't even know, maybe a million or a couple million jobs that the U.S. and these are probably very, very well-paying jobs that can be created here in the U.S. More so than there are now. The IRS says your tax refund may be smaller this year for a couple different reasons, especially if Congress can't pass a couple things here before the end of the year or even slightly into next year. They could still pass some of these things here. So here's the details on some of these items. So your refund for the 2022 tax year may be smaller than in years past, the IRS said here this week. That's because of several recently passed changes to the tax code. The IRS said taxpayers who take the standard deduction instead of itemizing their taxes will no longer be able to deduct their charitable contributions. Also, 2021's American Rescue Plan Act lowered the reporting threshold for third-party networks that process payments for those doing business. A 1099-K, which is used by third-party networks, can now be triggered by a single transaction that exceeds $600. The threshold to trigger the form used to be $20,000 in aggregate transactions. So that could count as some earned income for some people, like maybe selling some stuff on eBay or some stuff like that. For those claiming the earned income tax credit, also known as the adult tax credit, or the additional child tax credit, ACTC, the IRS said it cannot issue those returns until mid-February because the law requires it to hold the entire refund in an attempt to give itself more time to detect fraud. Additionally, some large refunds for tax years 2020 and 2021 were allotted because taxpayers who hadn't received their economic impact stimulus payments, also known as stimulus checks, claimed them when they filed their taxes. For those who use payment processors and who receive their 1099-K for income they didn't earn, such as personal gifts or reimbursements for personal expenses, which are not taxable, the IRS says it cannot correct the form. Instead, taxpayers will have to call the issuer. There are a few new or expanded tax credits that may be available to taxpayers, including the premium tax credit and the clean vehicle credit. The IRS acknowledges that there were still 3.7 million unprocessed returns. Yeah, a lot of people still waiting on their tax refunds. Isn't that ridiculous? And I'll get to that here in a second. It received in 2022 as of November 11th, as well as 900,000 unprocessed 1040X for amended tax returns. The IRS is processing these amended returns in the order they received, and the current time frame can be more than 20 weeks, which is 5 months. Yikes. And don't forget here that Kevin McCarthy, who's the Republican leader of the House, or the Republican leader of the Republicans, and will probably be the Speaker of the House here, says that they vow to immediately repeal the funding for the 87,000 IRS agents that was passed in I think it was the Inflation Reduction Act. So the IRS is starting to get more employees, which is going to help with this, like things like this backlog of processing your tax return. But the Republicans want to, now that they're going to control the House, they want to get rid of that. So like things like this, like getting your tax return so it doesn't take like months and months or years. Uh, they don't want that to happen. They want the things things like this where you wait forever. Um, that to continue to go on. I mean, I don't know. You could let me know your thoughts. It's kind of a double-edged sword because if you do get audited, then like yeah, it's a sucky situation. But if you don't get audited and you actually need help from the IRS, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I've seen so many people say they tried to call the IRS this year or even last year, and it's like it's like waiting in line for like the Super Bowl, and there's like 1,000 people in line, and your caller number 1047, and it's like, all right, you're on hold for hours, and sometimes you literally can't get through. Like literally, the automated thing will say, sorry, call again later, we're too busy. And I've seen comments from people saying, I'm still waiting on my tax return from last year. So if you don't allow them to hire more people, I, I mean, you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. But this is kind of Republicans and Democrats kind of like always at each other's throats. So I don't know. So the other problem here, the couple more things that'll make people's refunds lower, the expanded child tax credits. Republicans and Democrats have not been able to come to an agreement on making the child tax credits larger. Remember that last year the Democrats passed it on their own and made it $3,000 to $3,600 per child. Right now, they have not been able to pass it for this year. They still can, even though the monthly payment option won't go through because it's the end of the year. It's not really time to send out the monthly payments, but they still have time to make it $3,000 or $3,600 instead of $2,000 per child. You'll still need to file a tax return, just like last year. You still need to file a tax return, even with the monthly payments. You still wanted to file because the monthly payments only went through for half the year. You filed the tax return to get the other half, $1,500 to $1,800 for the rest of the money. So even if they don't pass it, it'll still be $2,000 per child. $2,000 per child. But if they do pass it on a larger amount, they're going to try to make a deal to do that. The Republicans want a corporate tax cut, which is expiring. And from the 2017 Trump tax cuts, there's a tax cut for corporations that's expiring. And Democrats are saying we might pass that for you because, again, they'll need both parties to do anything. And if they'll pass the child tax credits. So that's a possibility. Also, the adult tax credits, also known as the EITC for low income adults, would be probably included in there as well. I mean, it's up to like $6,600 or $7,000 or something like that. It depends on your circumstances and your income and stuff like that. So um, if those are passed, both of those would likely be included in there. So I'll keep you up to date here on all this stuff here going on in our country on a daily basis. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for liking and sharing these videos as well. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can click here to see my newest video on checks that are going out to Americans that you might not even know about. So click on one of those videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.